Right, today I'm going to be going over one of the best scarabs in the game, in my opinion, for the value it gives, which is the Incursion Scarab of Timelines. For one single scarab slot, you can essentially make Alva one of the most profitable mechanics in the game, depending on when in the league you run her. Today I'm going to be going over how to efficiently run her while getting your money's worth out of what will always be a moderately expensive scarab. This video is going to focus on how to run this scarab to maximize its profits per use rather than profits per hour, and to minimize the RNG aspect of the scarab. Full transparency, this video is just focusing on the scarab specifically rather than incursion as a whole, and while a lot of people ran Alva slash this scarab last league, this scarab does take a few weeks to really come into its own, gaining a massive hike in profitability when people start bug buying corruption chambers mid-league. Alright, so why am I calling this one of the best scarabs in the game? One, it is not relying on any other scarab in the game, meaning you use a single scarab slot to essentially get the maximum potential out of Alva. This also means it can be combined with pretty much every single strategy in the game. And two, throughout all stages of the league in Necropolis, it was fairly affordable and averaging around 10 chaos for the whole league. Last league, I uploaded a video where I made 43 Locus of Corruptions in 100 uses of the Scarab, which at the time sold for 86 divines at 2 divines each in bulk, which shows you just how crazy the Scarab can be. However, in this video I focused on running it as fast as possible for profit per hour rather than as efficiently as possible to maximize profit per use. Because of this, the results of my video likely had a pretty large variance in results between everybody who tried it, with some having the same luck as me and others having the complete opposite. So I wanted to make this video to show how to make the scarab more consistent. This all may seem complicated, but it does become second nature as you get used to running the scarab. There are two methods. Method 1 involves using one atlas tree that does not spec into the fourth incursion room, and method 2 involves using two atlas trees, one using the fourth incursion room and one not, and swapping between them. Use method 1 if you cannot afford or be bothered with switching between two atlas trees, and use method 2 if you don't mind that. The atlas tree swap method is only slightly better anyway. First off, never use the Scarab unless you have a room worth 3 times its price or higher. If Doryani's Institute is selling for 50 chaos and the Scarab is worth 20 chaos, then the only room worth using the Scarab on is the Chamber of Corruption. Okay, so for method 1, first off what you want to do is check the temple in your hideout to see if it has the corruption chamber or possibly the gem cutter's workshop, depending on Doryani's Institute's price. If one of these rooms do show up, simply run every single map with an Incursion Scarab of Timelines and you will get 4 itemized temples. If there is neither of these rooms, what you want to do is run the map without the Scarab and complete the first 2 incursions only. If you get one of these rooms, you then exit the map immediately after, not completing Alva, so she stays at either 11 out of 12 or 10 out of 12 incursions remaining. This means that you will be able to use the Scarab 4 times. If these rooms do not show up, run the third incursion. If they show up in that third one, then you start using the Timeline Scarab. However, you will only be getting 3 uses out of that Scarab now. You then repeat this step for every map you run. If you go into a map with 9 out of 12 incursions remaining, you run the incursions in that map until you get the desired rooms, and then you leave with the goal being to not complete that third incursion in each map. If you do not get the desired rooms, you complete all of the incursions in that map and you do it all again. And that's it. It's as simple as that. You don't have to watch this second method. You can skip it since again it's only slightly better, but a lot more complicated. But I thought I'd add in the second method just to inform everybody of all the options available. And on to the second method. First off, the benefit of using this method over the first is if you're unlucky, it will take one less map to complete and to reset Alva's temple, and in certain scenarios you save on maps and time in comparison to running 3 rooms. Over time, this can all add up pretty massively. This will share a lot of the same steps as the first method at first. Once again, you want to check in your hideout if the temple has the corruption chamber or the gem cutter's workshop. If one of these rooms do show up, you make sure you're on the passive tree that uses 3 rooms and just simply run every map with the scarab, and again you will get 4 itemized temples in total. And if there are neither of these rooms, what you want to do is run the first map without the scarab and complete the first 2 incursions, not completing Alva, so she stays at either 11 out of 12 or 10 out of 12 incursions remaining. If you get one of these rooms, you then exit the map immediately, switch to your free room Atlas tree and start using the Scarab. If these rooms do not show up, then you want to complete the next two incursions, taking you down to 9 out of 12 or 8 out of 12 incursions remaining. If you get one of the rooms, you exit the map immediately after, swap to the free room passive tree and start using the Scarab. And rinse and repeat. If you didn't get your desired room and you go into a map with 8 out of 12 or 4 out of 12 incursions remaining, you run the incursions until you get the room and you stop running them once you've gotten it. Then you switch back to the free Atlas passive tree and you start running the timeline scarab to get your itemized temples. The goal is, of course, always to find your chamber of corruption before every increment of free. So at 10 out of 11, 7 out of 11, 4 out of 11, and 1 out of 11 incursions remaining. And it's as simple as that. Real quickly, to explain why you want to exit the map if you get a desired room with these numbers of incursions remaining, and why you don't want to complete an extra incursion even though you will still be able to get the same amount of scarab uses out of your temple. Well, when you find a room in a map, you won't be able to find that room again for the rest of the map. So if you find a corruption chamber at 11 out of 12 incursions remaining, you may think there's no reason to not run another incursion and take me down to 10 out of 12 remaining, since I'll be getting 4 temples, 4 uses of the scarab either way. Well, the reason is you're throwing away an additional chance at upgrading that chamber of corruption since you can't find it again in the same map. And finally, why go through all the trouble of actually doing this? Why not just take forums all the time and run the scarab with every single map? Well, number one, the main reason, like I said earlier, Alva uses barely any passive points and only one scarab to essentially fully juice, which means you will be doing this alongside your main strategy, and on the maps that you run without the timeline scarab, you then get to further juice up your main strategy on those maps by having an extra scarab slot to use. And number two, it minimizes RNG. When making this video, if I was to use the timeline scarab on every single map, I would have gotten zero value out of over half of them, which is essentially just throwing away hundreds of chaos. This guarantees that when you do use the scarab, you're actually getting something out of it. So, what strategies would be worth running alongside this? Mainly anything you want, really, because again, half the time you use zero scarabs, and half the time you only use one. But depending on the price of Simulacrum this league, Splinter Farming may be very good alongside Alva, especially when combined with the Incursion Scarabs that grant increased pack size and percent chance for packs to be magic. They drop a boatload of splinters, so I would recommend running Alva with Delirium if Delirium is good this league. I might make a video on Splinter Farming before league start or shortly after. Anyway, I hope this video helped anyone who plans on using the Scarab. A lot of the info may seem straightforward, but I thought I'd throw this video out just to even help a few people when it comes to running the Scarab.